Hello, my name is Amelia, and I'm 38 years old. I recently became the owner of a new luxury restaurant that wasn't always mine. Today, I want to tell you about how that happened. Let me introduce you to the old owner of the business, my ex-husband, Daniel. Daniel and I met in college. We hit it off pretty instantly, started dating shortly after we met, and just stuck. Daniel was everything I wanted in a partner, so I knew there was no reason for me to ever leave him. After we graduated, we focused on our own careers and worked really hard to make it big. I had been doing fairly well as I earned pretty well and was in a respectable position in my company. Daniel, however, was doing way better than me. He very quickly climbed the corporate ladder and found himself in a very high position in his company. It was around this time that Daniel asked me to marry him, and I enthusiastically said yes. We decided to have a relatively small wedding so we could splurge on a nice house for us. Now, I had more than enough money to buy my house and have a big wedding, but I didn't want to dip into my savings. You see, when I was growing up, since I had about 4 other siblings, my family struggled financially. Both my parents worked in high-paying jobs, but having 5 children so close in age did not help. So, as soon as I started working, I began saving up. I opened a savings account with a high rate of return, and I have been religiously adding to it ever since. By the time I got married, I had built up quite a good amount of money. Even though I had the means to, Daniel and I both decided that it wasn't necessary to use. After that, Daniel and I lived pretty comfortably. We never really lacked anything, and on more occasions than I'd like to admit, we made impulse purchases that would make anyone's eyes pop out of their skull. I'm only saying all this to paint a picture of just how good we had it. So, I was very concerned when I began to notice how depressed Daniel was becoming. He seemed lifeless and rarely talked to me. One day, I finally managed to sit him down properly and got him to talk. "What's wrong, honey?" "I don't know. I just feel like I haven't accomplished much." "What are you talking about?" "You're at your peak right now. You're one of the highest paid employees in your company and have the next highest power after the CEO. Yeah, I know. It's just, it doesn't feel right." "What do you mean?" "Well, I'm grateful that I get to make so much money and exercise the power that many people dream of, but this is not what I always had in mind." "Are you talking about your dream to open up your luxury restaurant?" "Yeah, I mean, now is the perfect time to do it, right? I've achieved whatever I needed to, and we're definitely really comfortable with our lives. So, what's stopping you?" "It's a huge risk, Amelia. If I have to start something that big, I'd have to quit my current job, and we'd be able to survive on my savings for around another 4 to 5 years. That's only for our survival. I have no other means to fund the project." "Well, how badly do you want to start the project?" "Honestly, as soon as I can. But realistically speaking, I'd probably have to work another 8 to 9 years before I have enough money to fund it and allow us to survive comfortably." "Actually, you don't need to do that." "Huh? What are you talking about? You know how I've been putting aside money since I was 16. Well, I have a pretty large amount in my savings with interest and all. I could give you the money." "No, that's your money. You shouldn't have to give it all up for me." "That's nonsense, honey. There's no such thing as your money and my money. We're married, and I love you. Just let me do this one nice thing for you, okay? I really don't know how to thank you enough for this. Just be as successful as you can and be happy, that's all I want for you." I never had any big ambitions in my life, but I knew all about Daniel's big dream. It was the one thing he never stopped talking about back in college. He had seen all the big luxurious restaurants in movies and TV shows and always wanted to own one of his own. Even though we got busy with our lives after college, he still brought up this dream of his every now and then. I should have realized something was wrong when he stopped bringing it up for a few months, but I was also glad that he opened up to me about it. I knew just how much it meant to him, and since I had the funds to help him out, I saw no reason not to help him fulfill his dream. It was even better to see Daniel return to his old self. Over the next week, we began planning how to get the business started. We decided it was best to have the money transferred to Daniel so he could easily make all the payments he needed to make. However, I wanted to transfer all the money he needed at once without seeming suspicious in any way. My mom, who is a lawyer, told me many stories about the banks and the FBI getting involved in large transactions, so I called her to ask her how to get around it. Hey Mom, how's it going? Hi sweetie, everything's going well. Although I am super excited to finally retire next year. Work treating you badly? No, but I'm just too old to keep doing this. I still love my job, and I'm grateful for everything it gave me, but my God, it never stops. I'm counting down the minutes to my retirement at this point. Oh Mom, it'll be over before you know it, and then you'll miss it. Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Anyways, was there any particular reason that you called? Oh yeah, I was going to ask you if you knew how to withdraw or transfer a large amount of money at once without making it look suspicious. Large amount of money? Why? Well, since the start, Daniel has always had a dream to open up his own luxury restaurant. He's been down in the dumps recently because he feels like he's lost all his passion and motivation. So, I offered to help fund his project. Wow, that is very sweet. Where are you getting all this money from? You know, the money that I've been setting aside for the past 20 years. You're giving him all your life savings. Yeah, I can't think of any better way to spend it. It'll make him happy, and that's all I care about. Okay, well, will you at least have a contract drawn up stating you as an investor? Contract? Why would I make a contract with Daniel about it when I willingly offered him my money? Look, sweetie, I've been a lawyer for 45 years now. I've seen a lot of things, and if there's one thing I'm absolutely sure of, it's that the world of business, especially successful ones, changes people, usually for the worst. So, you think that Daniel will turn on me? How could you think that way? We've been married for 11 years now. I know I sound like a jackass, but it's true. I don't doubt the both of you or your relationship. You know I love Daniel like a son, but when you start seeing money, things start changing. People turn on their partners, and families break. For your safety, get yourself a contract and make sure it states you as a main shareholder. I know you're not wrong, but it just feels so wrong. How will I even bring this up with Daniel? You just need to rip it off like a band-aid. I'm sure he'll handle it well, and if he doesn't, well, he doesn't get his project funded, at least as funded as he wants it. That feels like I'm taking advantage of him. It's a small price to pay to make sure you're covered. If you need me to write you that contract, just let me know. Alright, just give me a few days to think it over, okay? I hated that my mom was right. I hadn't even thought of it that way. I lost a lot of sleep over the next few nights because I didn't know what was right. On one hand, I'd be protecting myself, but on the other, doing it would be like slapping Daniel in the face. I mean, I had just promised him that I would help him achieve his dream, and then I decided to backtrack a little. But eventually, I decided to go ahead with the contract. I decided to get a second opinion from another lawyer, one that wasn't going to be biased towards me because I knew them. They agreed with what my mom had said too and also brought to light that having this contract would serve as a savior for both Daniel and me. My stomach was a mess that day that I decided to talk to Daniel about it. After dinner that day, I sat Daniel down and told him that I needed to talk to him about something. Hey, so I needed to talk to you about something. Yes, what is it? You know how I said that I would give you my money? Yes, well, I was talking to my mom about it, and you know, since she's a lawyer and all, she implored me to make a contract with you about it. A contract for what? Technically speaking, I will be an investor in your company, so I will need that written down. Why do you need all that? Do you not trust me? Of course, I do. It's just that it's better to have everything in writing. All I'm hearing is that you don't trust me. If I didn't trust you, I wouldn't have offered you the money to begin with. Then why are you suddenly asking for a contract? You know that I trust my mom with all the legal stuff. I have always listened to what she said, and it saved me a bunch. She's even helped us out of many sticky situations. Sure, but this is very different. This is you giving me something out of the goodness of your heart and then suddenly backtracking and adding conditions. Look, I don't know why you're making a big deal out of this. All I'm becoming is an investor. I want to hold 51% of the shares, and you can have the other 51%, so you get to make most of the decisions. It's only fair, don't you think? I'm the one investing all of my money into this. Besides, I promise to never get in your way. You are getting in the way of my dreams, Cal. I just need some credit for what I'm investing in. Plus, it's great on my resume. You're unbelievable. I'm sorry that I've caught you so off guard, but you reacting this way is only making me think that you had actual plans to do something behind my back. No, I do not. It's just the principle of things. When you ask me for a contract stating that you're an investor, it makes me feel like you don't trust me. Well, like I said before, I can promise you that it's not how I feel. Why don't you think it over for a couple of days? And what happens if I say no? I will invest in your business depending on how many shares you're willing to give me. I never expected this out of you, Amelia. It pained me to do that to Daniel, but I also knew that it was a much better option to trust my mom. Daniel didn't speak to me for a while after that. I tried to talk to him and explain my perspective. I tried to reassure him that it wasn't a matter of my trust in him but just something that I was doing to ensure my security, which by extension became security for him as well. Daniel refused to listen to me. Eventually, I stopped trying to talk to him and decided to just let him come to me whenever he was ready. Daniel didn't speak to me for the next 2 weeks. Those weeks were hell because it felt like I was living with a roommate rather than my husband. I came really close to just giving in and telling him to forget about everything that I had said. But then Daniel approached me one day. He told me that he tried to find more investors, but no one was ready to take such a big risk, and those that wanted to invest in him didn't have the kind of funds that he needed. He made it clear that he hated that I had conditions to help him out, but he had no choice, which was why he was taking me up on my offer. I understood where he was coming from, but I was quiet. Over the next few weeks, we got his business registered and funded. We found a plot in a prime location, and the construction began. The next few years were super stressful because we had a lot to supervise and approve, but all of that was worth it when I got to see the finished restaurant. It was beyond luxurious, it was something straight out of a movie, and I just knew that it was going to be a big deal. I had been really excited about the grand opening, but Daniel told me not to come because he didn't think I needed to be there. We had a small argument about it, but eventually, I gave in. I still don't know why I did, but I guess I was just hurt and angry. Daniel apologized profusely after he came back from the grand opening and worked hard to make up for what he did. He never gave me an actual reason for why he didn't want me there, but eventually, I just dropped the topic altogether. One day, Daniel came back home particularly happy. It had been about a year since the restaurant opened, and Daniel almost always came back home really tired and never in the mood to talk. So, to see him so happy was truly a surprise. I asked him what made him so happy. I cannot even begin to tell you just how well the business is doing. Just the other day, we had a bunch of famous actors and actresses stay there. I'm so glad that it's all working out well. Life finally feels colorful again. We also got glowing reviews about our food. I knew it was a good idea to take extra time to find properly trained chefs. That's wonderful, honey. I'm so proud of you for everything that you've achieved. You do deserve this and so much more. But when am I going to get into this famous restaurant of yours? You want to dine in it? Well, yes. I mean, I do want to see what all the buzz is about. I want to taste the good food and bask in the luxurious atmosphere. Oh, I don't think that's a good idea. What? Why? Look, let's be real honest with each other here. You're the furthest thing from classy. I don't want my business's image to tarnish because of someone who looks like you. Are you actually being serious right now? There's no need to get all upset about it. I'm only speaking the truth. Why wouldn't I get upset? I invested everything into this, only for you to tell me that I'm not welcome because I don't look like I belong there. I get a lot of high-profile clients, okay? And you know how the rich are. They're all snobby and believe that only they have certain things. If they see you dress like you usually do, my business will start to tank. You really are something, aren't you? What does that mean? You just showed me your true colors, and I'm going to make you pay for it. There's no need for any empty threats, okay? I'm simply doing what's best for my business. That is something you'll never understand, unfortunately. I was so angry that I was calm. I couldn't believe that my own husband thought so lowly of me. What had I done to him to deserve this view? All I could think about at that moment was how I had lost all the money that I had invested. It all felt so pointless to have even tried to support my husband when he thought I was not allowed to enter the restaurant based on something so superficial. I never even got to pocket any of the returns on my investments because that went straight into Daniel's pocket. That was something I was happy to give him because I was already earning enough for myself through my own job. It was not like Daniel spent that money on anything but the house anyway. But now, I needed to get it all back. I saw no reason for someone as ungrateful as him to own his dream. He must have forgotten just how his business came to be, because if he did remember it, he would never have treated me that way. I wanted revenge, and I knew just who to go for. I called my mom up after Daniel left the house to give me space to cool down. I told my mom everything that had happened and asked her if I could do anything. She told me that since I was the major investor and shareholder, I had total say in what happened in the business. No big decision could be made without my approval, and I also got to decide who owned the business. Armed with that knowledge, it was only a simple process of holding a board meeting with the rest of the shareholders and letting them know that there had been a change in ownership. Of course, I was asked why the sudden change, and when I explained what had happened, most of them looked shocked. Some of them even snickered at the absurdity of Daniel's actions. By the end of the meeting, all of them were on board with my plan. Then came the paperwork, which took a little while. I knew that everything had been done successfully when Daniel came back home one day fuming. He stormed into the house and began yelling my name really loud. He finally found me in our bedroom. "What the hell did you do? What are you talking about?" "Don't even. I just got called for a board of directors meeting, and I got told that I was no longer the head of the restaurant." "Oh, really? That's rough. How could you do this to me? You knew this was my dream. Some dreams are just not meant to be fulfilled. You threw me out, all because I told you that you weren't fit to sit in my restaurant. Tell me how you would have reacted if the tables were turned." "I would definitely not have done this because that would never have happened. I take great pride in how I look, and I make sure that I look the part wherever I go." "That's true, you do look very much like the loser you are. How did you even do this? My. For someone who claimed that they knew what business was like, you sure don't understand how it works, huh? This has something to do with that stupid contract, doesn't it? Since I'm the major shareholder, I get to have a saying in the ownership as well. You insulted me, and I made you pay for it. If you think this business can run without me, you're sorely mistaken. I have created rapport with so many famous people that the business will crash the second they find out that I'm no longer in the picture. That's not something I'm too concerned about. I've heard all about your rapports. All you've been doing is irritating the guests and tailing them, all in the hopes of making it bigger. In fact, it's because of this that the business is starting to fall. Now, with you gone, I'm sure the business will soar again. Who are you even replacing me with?" "Me, obviously. And I'm going to make it the most successful thing you've ever seen. And when I've made it big enough, I'll make sure to give everyone an entry, including you. Here, take these divorce papers and get the hell out of my life." Daniel tried to beg me more to take back what I did, but I was done with his antics. I had sacrificed all my hard-earned money to help him, and then he showed me his true colors. I was not going to let someone that selfish back into my life. Seeing the color drain from his face as he realized what he had done was the most satisfying thing that had ever happened to me. I took away the product of his hard work in the same manner that he had done to me. After that, a lot of things happened in rapid succession. First, Daniel tried to contest the divorce, but I let him have everything else he wanted but the business. He got the house, but the business was untouchable, as it was all mine. Then, I got a lot of Daniel's family members messaging and calling me to tell me what a horrible person I was. The old me would have been really upset by that, but if there was one thing that Daniel taught me, it was how to stand up for myself. I gave them all the truth and presented them with evidence of everything. That only led to Daniel getting ostracized by his family because he had apparently lied to them all and told them that I had stolen the business. They were disgusted with the way that he treated me, and they made sure he knew about it. Many of them reached out to apologize, and in return, I gave them discount coupons for the restaurant. I'm still healing from everything that Daniel put me through, but I'm also finally living freely. The restaurant's business is booming now that I've opened it up to a bigger demographic. I will forever be grateful to my mom for having much better hindsight than I will ever be able to have. But for now, I'm just going to enjoy the next chapter of my life to the fullest. In conclusion, Amelia successfully takes control of the hotel business, asserting her authority as the major shareholder. She stands up for herself against Daniel's disrespectful behavior, ultimately divorcing him and retaining ownership of the hotel. Amelia navigates challenges, including familial backlash, with resilience and honesty. The hotel flourishes under her leadership as she expands its reach to a broader audience. Finally free from the toxic relationship, Amelia embraces the next chapter of her life, savoring the newfound success and freedom. Dear viewers, thank you from the bottom of my heart for tuning in to watch the captivating story unfold on our channel. Your time and support mean the world to us. This tale of resilience, transformation, and triumph wouldn't be the same without your engagement. We appreciate each one of you who joined us on this journey. Your comments, likes, and shares inspire us to bring you more compelling narratives. We hope you found this story as enthralling as we did. Stay tuned for more content that sparks emotions, stimulates thoughts, and, most importantly, entertains. Thank you for being a part of our community. Your presence makes it all the more special. Warm regards, Insightful Tales.
Alright, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. "Take care." That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. "I will do my best." Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. "Did you not hear what I said?" "I'm sorry." I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, "I'm thirsty." Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. "I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime," he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. "All right, everyone's presentations are done." "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me. "There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer." He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. "Still here?" Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. "I'm leaving." I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick! What's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. "Probably Sam." Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. "Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized." Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. "All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason." "What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do." "I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please." Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, "Yes. That's Nick for you." Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, "I'm very sorry." Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, "Get his boss here immediately." It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. "What is that idiot doing?" "All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next." Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. "Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize." Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. "What kind of training are you giving your subordinates?" Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed, I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry." Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." "Mike, what have you done?" Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.